I want to going back to school is when did school become a business? Yeah. So I remember going to school and each semester having to pay $1,000 for books because they changed one chapter and wanted a new edition.
Outrageous.
Not only that is, we know student loan is higher than credit card debt in America.
Yes.
And you can't even go bankrupt on it.
No, there's a loophole passed in the law.
We're indentured servants, not only physically with the monetarily side, but psychologically, having that debt on your shoulders. Talk about that. When did school become a business?
I would say around the 1980s in California. And it was Ronald Reagan partly who was responsible for that. His whole Reaganomics and supply side economics that argued that if we would just cut taxes on the wealthiest people, the business investors, they would take the money, invest it in the United States, and create more jobs by expanding their businesses. Sure. The fact is, it did not happen. Instead, that money that they took and put in their pockets, they took part of that and took it overseas to start factories and enterprises there, taking away jobs from our young people here. And while Reagan and them cut these taxes, they had to make up the difference by charging you guys, the college students, more and more out of your own pocket or your parents' pocket, or you had to go out and get loans, which they made available by letting the private banks get involved in it, which is another scandal. If anything, the government should have, frankly, I don't think there should be loans, period. As in Europe, they don't have loans, and they're much more competitive. The more people graduate from college and are able to get good, productive work and come up with new inventions. We should have tuition-free education once again here. It started in the 80s. It took off in the 90s and became worse in the 2000s as more and more loopholes were passed for the corporations by the members of Congress, by the legislators, and that's where the crisis began. And to student debt, as you said, the average, there are 40 million students who are now with bachelor's degrees, just graduated with that degree, bachelor's. And they are each the average of $31,000 in debt. It's a total of $1.3 trillion in total student debt, which is the second largest debt. As you said, because of the lobbying efforts by the banks and others, the loan companies, the Congress passed a part of the legislation to put a loophole in there, an amendment that says that's the only debt that can never be written off in a bankruptcy. To put you guys in indentured servitude, like you said, for years and years, decades. I have a friend in his 50s. He's a small businessman. He went to State University of New York in Binghamton, and he is now $55,000 in debt. He ended up graduating with a $30,000 debt, right. And he was paying on it, but he had a hiatus for a little while when he was unemployed, yeah. And the interest rate kept going, and he's now 50-something thousand in debt. He's 50-something years old, and this is just. I think that what Bernie Sanders is talking about is very important, about bringing back tuition-free education, and also reducing the student debt by reducing interest. I would go one step further. I would cancel student debt by 50% right away for all students, and then help them with the rest of the debt gradually to bring it down and eliminate it. Because you cannot have a productive nation when its most productive generation, and the one that's going to be even more productive, the millennials, are in this indebted situation.
And going just for me, I run my own business. When I look at it financially, they've almost incentivized going to school. It's almost a bad business move if you look at it financially. Mm-hmm. We were told at one point that it was to have this kind of existential experience, find out who we are. But if you're coming out in that debt, and now a college degree is equivalent to a high school degree,
absolutely.
I mean, is it almost a bad business decision now? I mean,
if you're looking at it purely in terms of will it pay off right away or set me back so much in life economically, it could be seen as a bad decision, especially with that debt. Yeah. But we need to eliminate that debt immediately.
So it's not a thought. Of course I'm going to school. I don't want to work.
Yeah, I believe people need to go to college or school or higher education that's not college, technical school, trade school. We need more apprenticeship programs in America, as they have in Germany and other countries, where they keep up the workforce highly educated and the government subsidizes it. For example, in Germany, if you wanted to be a hairdresser, they subsidize you, so your education is practically free. You become an apprentice in a hairdressing salon as well. And when you come out, they generally hire you and the government subsidizes them. That's how the German economy is so vibrant today. It's an export-driven economy to a certain extent because it comes up with new products. It helps their people stay working, basically, and a lot of other reforms. In Europe, students pay no college tuition.
Crazy.
In most countries.
How do they do that?
Yeah. In Germany, it's tuition-free. France, Denmark, Sweden. In fact, in Denmark, the government gives the college student $900 a month to live on, living expenses, in addition to paying for the tuition fully. And so there's no debt, no student debt. They can do it because the Danish government has a progressive income tax structure, brought in by the Social Democratic Party usually. And what they did was to make sure that those who have the extreme amounts of wealth and the big corporations pay a fair share. And they take that money and put it in to pay for education, because it's a matter of paying it forward. When you pay for that next generation, as the Constitution requires, right, then it'll come back to all of us. The old us who are middle-aged will become old one day if we're lucky, right? And the young people can then support us, and we support them to start with. So you're right. This is a psychological situation for many of you young people as well. It puts a burden on your mind. You know, it's not right because you're setting people back, not just physically and materially, but psychologically and even spiritually to some extent, and it's absolutely wrong.